Okay, here we are back in the old shop again. We're going to be working on my 2003 Kia. It's got a 3.5 liter engine in it, V6, and it's I've been putting off working on it. You know how it is when you're working on everybody else's car but your own. But I'm going to be working on the heating system. I've got the control panel pulled out of the vehicle already. I'm getting ready to unplug some plugs. I'm going to be changing the switches because my fan will only run if I hold the switch in or if I push it to one side. It's one of those old analog potentiometer type dials, and so I'm going to put I ordered a new one from Rock Auto. I'm going to be throwing that in there, and then I'm going to come outside on the engine. Hold on just a second. I'm going to come outside on the engine, and I'm going to take this plenum off, and I'm going to move everything out of the way out up here in front, everything that's going to be in my way, because I'm going to be pulling the valve lifter covers off. I don't know if you can see it or not on the camera right here, but I've got some oil that's there, and it's caused my starter to fail after just 1 year. When I pulled the starter off, I realized it was full of oil, and the starter is right underneath there. But I'm going to go ahead and pull the plenum off and all this air duct system, so I can get to the heater hoses that go into the wall right there. They go into the firewall, and I'm going to be pulling those off and replacing all that piping and hosing. I'm going to back flush the heater core, and then inside the engine on this 2003 Kia Sedona, I should say. I'm going to, as you can see, I have already pulled the panel loose. It just has 4 screws that hold it after that trim comes off. I'm trying not to unplug as much stuff as I possibly can because just a lot more trouble. But I'm going to have to unplug this one side of this part completely off so that I can get in there. So I wanted to just get in here, make sure I get the color of those connectors from top to bottom. So it's going to be blue, green, white, and black at the top. So I'm going to unplug that and then see if I can just swing that around so that I can get to my switches right here. This switch right here is the one that's bad. It will only stay in if I keep it pushed in or put something to wedge it across there. The underneath where the potentiometer makes the contact or the contacts meet, it's all corroded probably or just worn out, and so I'll be replacing that. But this whole front has to be pulled away. Then this is screwed to the back of that. There's the replacement set that I ordered. I'm going to be putting in there, and then I should have full control of that again. Last year I replaced the resistor pack that causes these fans to only run on high, but you know, it's over the years, with this being a 2003, 14 years old, it's still doing pretty good. I just replaced the time chain on this vehicle, or the timing belt in this vehicle last year, and all the pulleys, the hydraulic tensioner and the water pump and all that while I had the engine apart then. That was on the front side of the engine. I'm trying to get to 1,000,000 miles out of this old vehicle, but what's going to destroy it is living in Chicago area, the Chicagoland area. I live in Plano, about 50 miles outside of Chicago, a place called Aurora. That's the place where Wayne's World was shot, or supposed to have been shot. Aurora, they come from that part of the northern country up here. And that's pretty much how teenagers are up here, if you want to know the truth. They meet that pretty well. But anyhow, it's about 45 degrees in the garage right now. I'm going to let it heat up a little bit just to make it more comfortable in the van. I actually sorry for the darkness, I actually put a little heater in here, and that'll keep the cabin warm, because anytime I work on the electrical system, as I am on this vehicle right now, to keep from doing any damage to the computer, and you can do it very easily, I disconnect both sides of the battery. It's probably just as good to just undo one. But I don't want to take any chances on my own personal vehicle and causing some kind of a short or problem that could happen. So I'm just trying to be extra careful. Okay, so we'll get back to you when we get the front of the panel pulled off. All I'm going to be doing right now is unplugging wires, and while I'm doing that, you don't need to see that. But when I get ready to remove that switch panel down there, then I'll get back to you. Okay. Okay, here's the panel pulled out. It simply just has 4 screws that hold it on, that on the outside edges right there. And then they gave you plenty of wire to pull the assembly forward. And then back here, you see you have a plug on the top, and then there's some plugs on the side. Want to make sure we put those back exactly where they go. But again, they've even left some color spots on there so that we can see that easily where to plug those back in. And even over here, there's a blue, and then the black goes underneath there. The black doesn't really have any pins, so I suppose I don't know what that's for. But anyway, these potentiometer or these selectors, they're like potentiometer or light switch type thing, and they just have gotten bad. But instead of just changing, I don't want to just trust changing the switch itself. I want to go ahead and change that whole assembly. It just has 4 screws. Again, on this device, there's only 4 screws. There's one here, one down here on the bottom, then one over here on the side, and one on the top. Then this just pulls straight out. So I'll go ahead and do that, and then I'll show you what it looks like after I just undo those 4 screws. Okay, so now I'm just going to go ahead and remove this old panel down here. It's just 4 screws, one here. Just gently. I am going to be reusing the original face of this assembly. So I just want to take these off nice and gently, and then pull it out and put the new one in. This is my old work van. I've been driving this van for many years. I plan to drive it many more until the rust just destroys it, which it will do eventually. That salt they put on the roads up here to keep the ice melted just destroys just about everything that it comes in contact with after a while. And there we go. It just lifts right out. Nothing to it. Comes right out of there. Want to make sure I put it right back in the same way though. That wouldn't be too good of an idea. Easier than it looks like. I mean, harder than it looks like. Got one screw I need to get out anyway. I'm out of camera right now. Let me just turn this off. Okay, so here's our assembly with the pieces taken apart. Here's the old one. It just came out of it. This one that controlled the fan in the front wide right here was the one that was giving me all the problems. So I'll take this apart and see what's really caused it, but I can see a lot of tarnish on this. I'll make sure I spray that and clean that. Of course, the other one this is new. I did not buy it rebuilt. I don't like to put rebuilt stuff on my vehicle, especially electrical stuff that I want to stay good for a long time. I mean, this van now is 14 years old, and this old part lasted almost all of that time. So get this ticket off of here. Okay, so now to just put this back together, I'll just be installing it right there, just like that, just like new again. Okay, you can turn it over, put the 4 screws back in there that I just took out. I don't like to use my power drill when I'm putting something back together. It's just too easy to mess up. That little Makita ratchet drill right there is very powerful, and having it start the screw, I'm afraid that I would start it off crooked and then wind up having it go in cross-threaded, and that's not how I like to do work, even on my own vehicle, especially on somebody else's. But I'm pretty particular about my own vehicle too. something like this, while you have it apart and have access to it, best to do it right while you got it out. Well, can't see that screw hole. Gotta go get a light so I can see the screw hole. Everyone gets $10 cold cash for every $50 spent. Presents for that. Cold cash for you. Shop in store today. Give joy, get joy. Only at Kohl's. Earn cold cash December 7th and 24th. Redeem December 25th through January 7th. This is what happens to you when you start to get old. You can't remember where you put anything.
That little voice inside your head. You know that last minute gift you need? Well,
Okay.
Office Max has their best-selling HP laptop bundle on sale.
That's a little strange.
Logitech wireless mouse, 1 year of Microsoft Office Personal, and McAfee protection software, all just $369. That's a $330 savings. Shop Office Depot, Office Max.
Oh, let's see. Oh, I've got something. I've pinched something putting this together. That's why my screw hole wasn't right. That's why I didn't want to hammer that down with that Milwaukee drill. It's not sitting just right. It would have caused that to pinch. Because I had it sitting flat on the table that it did that. It's okay. No harm. No harm, no foul. That's why you don't want to get in a big hurry when you're doing this kind of thing. Because I tell you, easy to make a mistake. Always can come back and repair something when you don't go too far with it. The only mistake I made is I didn't have this seated down in there real good, and that was causing this. Not all four of my seats were not. There we go. That's how it has to be. It has to be flush in the front all the way across. Because when you start putting those screws in, if you don't have that flush, then it will be off like it was, and then my holes weren't. My piece wasn't sitting down flat where the screws go in right there. That has to be flat against that. You even have a little guide next to where the screw goes. You can't mess it up. Here's a guide. Uh-oh. There's the guide right next to where the screw goes, so you can't mess it up. No matter what you do, you can't mess it up. Okay, unless you get cross-threaded going in there like I almost just did. But you caught it, and that's what matters. Now, to make sure that doesn't happen again, what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave that hanging off a little bit, off my bench. Got enough weight where I, of course, can't press down, but that's not what I want to do. I want to just get my screws in and have them draw down. And making it, putting it in a place like this, for me, it makes me remind myself that I've got to be gentle with this piece. It is made of plastic. It's a little bit cold in the shop right now, probably around 50 degrees, and plastic doesn't want to cooperate when it gets cold. It will break before it will bend usually when it gets cold. When it gets cold enough, it will definitely break and shatter and everything else, almost like glass. Cold enough. But, okay, so now, I'm going to go ahead and start tightening these down. Easy. I can see that they're seating well now. There's no space between the bottom and the top of this. Again, I'm just doing very gently. I haven't tightened all the way down yet, because if I did, this would just fall right off the table. But it reminds me to be gentle. Can't just take it for granted I can come over and slam these screws in. There we go. Now, turn it around, take another look at it, and I think that's going to look much better than it did a minute ago. Absolutely. Now we're flush. We're flush on all the spots we should be flush at right there. Now, because I don't want to hammer those down again, like I said, I'm just going to go ahead and hold it in my hand. Finish tightening while I have it in my hand. That's going to be in there a long time. Want to make sure it's in there good and tight. But not going crazy with it. That's how easy it is. Pretty simple. So now I'm going to go ahead and put it back up there, fit it, and make all my plugs. First I'll put these plugs in over here. That allows me to keep this turned to that side. And then I can put these bottom plugs in, this plug in, and then I can turn it more into the fittings position. Get this plug in and all these pins on this row, and it just snaps right back in place. Of course, before I do that, I'm going to hook this battery back up, and I'm going to test it and make sure it's working right. Because before I do all that, I'm going to make sure that I'm certain that the problem was the switch over here. It just wasn't making contact. They wear out. They get corroded. And but I'm going to make sure, because that plug on the back side didn't show any real heat problems or any problems that would made it to burn through or anything like that. It doesn't have to be changed, but it showed that it's been in there a while, you know. But I think it'll be fine. Okay, so let's go put her in. Okay, so here we are now. I've got this all plugged in again. All the plugs are back in along the sides that I showed you before into the modulator. Now I just got to fit these two. Up here there's two vents. Let me see if I can show you that. Up here at the top there's two vents that are pipes that plug into the back of these vents right here. That's kind of a hard fit to get, but you just got to be careful. Take your time. Don't try to force anything. It will go back in the same way it came out of there. If you just gently move it into position around your radio, you can see that it just drops right in there. Nothing to it. People complain so much about these Kias, but I've had this one for years, and I find some of the things, it happens regularly, wears out, sure, but it's not that hard to work on, and they built it right. You know, that's my opinion. I'm prejudiced because I've had it all these years, but it's been reliable so far. You just got to keep up the maintenance, like these little things like this. You know, things you got to do from time to time. Now, I'm not going to fasten it down yet. I'm going to do, like I said, I'm going to go out there and put that battery back on. Then we'll come back to the video then. Okay, we're back now. I've hooked the battery back up, and now we're just going to see how this works out. If it's if the fan's working in all positions, and if the control, you know, I have full control on my front and my different areas, and my heat control. So let's just first of all give it some power. Test my fan. I'll shut the door so I can hear it without that agitating beep. Turn the wipers off. Lord. I used to drive this car all the time. Now I've forgotten where all the controls are. Okay, I've got control in the low fan. In the 2 position, I have control. Number 3, I have control. Number 4, I have full control now. I had the battery unplugged for a while, so all the lights on the panel are on. The computer will have to reteach itself. I'm not going to start it because I don't have the garage door open, but I am going to go open the garage door now, and oh, I see my heat came up. Okay. Okay, so now we have a workable fan, front and rear. Make sure my button works for AC. All right. All my directionals are working. So, this modulator unit is working fine. There we go. All through all the ranges I'm getting good flow, so that means I got it plugged on correctly. That means that the modulator is in contact with the computer and working properly. Okay, so AC. Indoor fan. Circulation for the inside is working. Okay, so we'll come back to the video once I get the garage door raised and ready to start this. See if I can get some better heat. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and put my screws back into the assembly, and again I'm going to put these in by hand. I just don't like that power drill ratchet that I have. Is very powerful. It goes up to 3,300 pounds of torque, and boy, with that much torque, one of these screws can be stripped out so easily, so I'm not even going to chance that. And we'll get this all put back together. My light keeps turning off in the shop out there for some reason. Probably this heater I've got in here pulls too much current. But I'm not losing my light, so you just got to learn to make do with what you have to work with. If your garage is not big and you don't have a lift and all the other things, you can't let that stop you. I mean, you got to keep working. Keep trying to do what you can to get the job done. You know, you don't always have the best of everything, but you gotta keep trying to do the best you can. But I want to be able to make these videos because I remember what it was like when I had nobody to help me. And I couldn't afford to go to a mechanic shop, and if I did, they didn't want to give you any help. They just, you know, they were doing it for the living. They couldn't give it away for free, you know. So, with the advent of YouTube, it changed my ability to be able to work on vehicles. There's not a thing that I wouldn't be afraid to tackle to do now. Not for just step by step. I mean, I have enough experience to know how to keep from breaking screws and stripping off. You can see that. But a lot of times you just don't know where to begin. Now today, I just came out here and started prying around on this trim, which I'm about to put back around this right now. Because that was really the most daunting part for me, is I didn't want to snap it. And I wanted to be sure that I had it, you know, was taking it off the right way. But just watching a video on YouTube, I saw a guy I didn't catch it all, but I caught him pulling most of it, you know, pulling it off, and so I realized there can't be that much to it. And coming out and looking at it and doing it, well, that made the difference, you know. Now, down here, you have the neutral park switch that sometimes you might have to check when you're having trouble with the car not starting. So now I understand how to get to that very easily, and all the different things that I might have to work on this control, I've been able to look at that, and so now that gives me a good idea what's going on there. All right, now let's put the trim package back on. I wish I could have a better view for you folks, but I know, you know, this is just how it is right now. When when able to afford a better camera and different things, then the videos will get better. Okay, I'm going to mainly focus on down here where I'm going to be going around this knob at first, because that's where I don't want to mess up and break something. Get my light set. so that I can see and work. Okay. All the plugs for the, oh man, I want to make sure I turn off this key. I don't want to short something out. All my plugs for the cigarette lighter and all are over here, and they're all in good condition. So now I'm just going to slip that over there, bring it down into position, and it has those little snaps that it goes into, and I'll tell you, they just pop right in. So I'm going to start with the top up there and press down at the top first so that nothing gets caught from up here, and work my way down on it, and it just snaps right into position, as you can see. It doesn't get much easier than that. I want to make sure that's in there nice and seated, because if it's not, it's going to rattle. This van has not got any rattles in it. With 196,000 miles, it still does not rattle. And I can see right in there, and where I'm going to have to put my fastening screw. Let me see if I can get it in the camera. Right there in the cigarette lighter, that hole matches up perfectly where I'm going to put the screw back in. That holds it all into place. Again, simple as pie. Nothing to it. Get a good light in there so I can see what I'm doing. A lot of times I'll just put a magnet on my screwdriver, and when I want to reach in with a long screw like that. But I've done it so many times with this screwdriver now, the tip is magnetized, and it'll hold a light screw most of the time. But I wouldn't try that if I was going to drop that screw down to someplace where I couldn't retrieve it, I'll tell you that. But all I was going to do is drop into the tray for the ashtray, so no worries. There we go. All right, it's all back in place. Vehicle starts right up. Fan comes on beautifully. Perfect. Heat controls right where I want it. Controls are working great. All right. We'll call that a fix on this part of the heating system. But you see how easy that goes back together. It's really not a big challenge. Anybody can do it. You just got to take your time and be careful and don't rush.